traveling on this flyover, if you look over to your left, this is where you get the view, alright, of the two domes over there, the conservatory domes, those that belongs to gardens by the way, alright. And then we also have our Singapore flyover here. This body of water that we are traveling above, this is the Marina Reservoir, one of the 17 water catchment areas that we have. So this is the freshwater reservoir. If you look out there, we have like a crested gate, alright, kind of looking like a dam that separates the salt water out there to the fresh water inside here. Okay, so that is the Straits of Singapore. And this Singapore Flyer, okay, over here, this is the tallest in Asia, and it sits on the home ground of our Formula One heat. Yeah, because in Singapore we also run the Formula One event, and it is the biggest event in our calendar over here. And do y'all know when we run the street circuits here? So usually that is the time that all the vehicles, they have to do a lot of the tours, you know, in order to avoid that area and step into the city center. So people usually just stays in their neighborhood. Okay. But for me, usually during F1, that is the time that I get out. Okay, so it is actually Mundako. Yeah, suddenly it comes to your mind, yeah? Yeah, alright, so that is the most densely populated, and Singapore comes second to that. Usually Singaporeans, we are very competitive. We always want to be the number one in everything. But this is something I'll be like, no, please take that spot. Please drop me down to a 5th, 6th, or even drop, okay? Please be at the specific place at the specific time. Do not be that, oh, this is the time that we have to meet, then you start walking to the place, because, you know, I'm sorry, okay, that we will all not be able to wait for you, because today this is a teamwork, so I need everyone to be cooperative, okay? Because if you're not at the given place at the given time, then I'm really sorry. It's because before Singapore was called Singapore, we were called Temasek. Temasek is an old Javanese word for sea town. So we just want to remind ourselves of our humble beginning here, starting off as a little fishing village. Okay. And why we have the lion head? Well, in the year 1299, we had a prince who came to Singapore. Alright, he was from the Riau Islands of Indonesia. His empire got attacked, so he decided to flee. And he fled with his men. They all gathered onto the boat. They were rowing around trying to look for a new place to set up his empire. And this place was where he came to. So when he came over here, he surveyed this place. And then, you know, from the corner of his eye, he saw an animal that came out of the jungle. So that animal came out. Perhaps I've never seen a human being before. God started, quickly ran back into the jungle. So the prince couldn't really tell what animal it was. And he decided to ask his men. He was like, hey, did you guys see that animal? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if your boss asks you something and you don't know the answer, what are you going to do? Huh?
Google it.
Draw it, but if you don't know what is it in the first, yeah, you can draw it, but if your boss asks you something that is not able to be drawn, if your boss asks you something and you don't know the answer, you will want to make it up because your boss has no patience for Google. Okay. Very good. Yeah, that is how you ace the corporate world now. Okay. So one of the men, he was like, I don't know. Integrated resorts over here. So got our art science museum over there. Here to your right, and then that is where we have the shopping center, casino, everything. And then if you look over to your left-hand side, right, this is the 3 tall towers of hotel rooms. Okay, and we have an observatory deck right up at the top of this place. Right? So that is the Gardens by the Bay. In Gardens by the Bay, it is a place that is about 101 hectare big, and it is also built solely on reclaimed land. So later on, when we are walking down, you know, if you feel that you're sinking down a little bit, maybe it is not your illusion. Yeah. And I'm sure from the moment when you touch down at the airport, you start to see all the plants and trees, you know, they are at the indoor of Changi together. Okay. And then I will give you guys some time to take photos only at the best spot later, and then we will come back onto